Hello and welcome into the latest edition of the Fore-All Podcast. I'm Jesse Morrison alongside Max Bechtoldt. And Max, what a final round of the Walmart Northwest Arkansas Championship on Sunday, culminating with Jasmine Swanepoel winning over Lucy Lee in a playoff. What are your biggest takeaways? Because I have some of my own.
So, first of all, I think this is like the best final round we've seen on tour this year. Just when you take these final round just solo, apart from everything else, you've got Swanepoel shooting a 61, Lucy Lee shooting a 60 to get into the finals. Lucy Lee's a player who became famous because of how young she was great. And we've always been kind of waiting for her to reach that potential. And this kind of felt like a breakthrough week for her. But in the end, Swanepoel winning, and I just want to go into like personally how much this means to me because it does. Swanepoel, suffered a very similar injury that I've suffered, which is a fracture and a couple of bones in her back, which I also suffered about 6 years ago. And like just on a personal level, seeing her come back from that, she's won a couple of tournaments in the last few years. It just means a lot to see how much she's kind of persevered. I think she had a really bright career that kind of got halted at the time. And now to see her coming back with another win, this is yet another win for Thailand this year. I believe she's the fifth player from Thailand to win on tour in 2024. It's just a really kind of important moment, I think, and a really fun kind of story.
So this is the first win for her since July 20th of 2019 when she won the Dow Great Lakes Bay Invitational with Sydney Clanton that year. So just, I love seeing that in golf when you see one of these players that's gone so long without winning come back and win. It's just like I feel like the first win's a really cool, really big moment, but like for someone that's felt that and then has had to go through the trials and tribulations of not winning for a few years, that's really super cool to see and fun to see. For this tournament in particular, though, like how in the world you shoot a 60? Like it's crazy to me that there was a 60 in the final round of this tournament and the person that shot the 60 lost and that person was up, or I guess, yeah, well, up two strokes or down two strokes, whichever way you want to say it in golf, going into the final hole and still lost. Like absolutely crazy for me. That's why I think, clearly, and we talked about this tournament being like maybe not so great. And, it's only 3 days, whatever. Probably the best tournament of the year. Probably.
It's
As
up
far as
there. It's up there. I mean, there's a few others in discussion, but it's up there. And Lucy Lee, Grant Boone, the color or the play-by-play announcer for the LPGA, tweeted that this is probably the greatest round ever shot by a non-winner by Lucy Lee, shooting a 60. She had, multiple eagles on the round, including a hole out. Like she had three putt bogeys, I believe, but still only had 27 putts, which is just a crazy stat. Lucy Lee, like I said, she kind of had that prodigy label on her because when she was a teenager, she was playing in, majors. Just kind of like Nelly Korda, like Morgan Pressel before her, like Lexi Thompson. Like she was kind of in that same realm. And she hasn't really seen the same level of success. So for her to come out, shoot this round, get into this playoff, almost win this tournament, I think it's a huge sign at where her career is going moving forward. She's had a solid year this year. She was at one point somewhat in the Solheim Cup discussion, and I think in 2 years she'll definitely be firmly in that United States Solheim Cup team discussion because she's starting to show that that potential is a real thing.
so she was the youngest qualifier in the history of the U.S. women's amateur and the U.S. Women's Open. When she was 11 in 2014. And like you said, she's not won on the LPGA tour. She's got a couple of Epson Tour wins. Shout out my buddy Rhodes, who works for the Epson Tour. And so, yeah, she's got a couple of wins there, but she has not yet won on the LPGA Tour. And, you've got to feel for her a little bit here, just because, like, if I shot a 60 in the last round, potentially to win my first tournament and then didn't win, I don't know. I mean, these pro athletes are way more resilient than I am. This would be one of those times where I might consider chucking my clubs into a water hazard. And, just I've never come anywhere close to that. Like, that's what I shoot on 9 max as a 60. So I would be extremely frustrated in this situation. But yeah, we were both wrong as well on our predictions for this tournament. Way wrong, I think. So yeah, that's something.
I will say, on my second try, I online on the website, I put Mouse Saigo as my third most likely to win. She came in 4th. So that's just enough of a win for me. But again, Jasmine Swanepoel, Lucy Lee, so happy for them. They played great rounds. And it's great to see them kind of get that moment that they had.
All right, Max.
Mm-hmm.
Player of the year.
Oh, no.
Who should be the player of the year? I think most people would probably say Nelly Korda. I think I might have a different answer.
Well, I think most people would say Nelly Korda. I don't think everybody would, and I think you have the answer that other people would have. And I just want to start off this discussion by saying that I think we both agree Olympics should count for player of the year, right?
Correct.
So I think we both agree. And I'm going to bring up an example from a few years ago that I think is relevant here. That will probably hurt my argument, but in the end will make it, more honest, I think, which is that Nelly Korda should have won Player of the Year in 2021. She did not win it, but she won 4 events that season. She won a major. She had an incredible year, very similar year to Lydia Ko. She also won the Olympic gold medal that year, which of course didn't count. So realistically, she had 5 wins with 1 major, including that Olympic gold medal. Jin Young Ko won with 5 events won, no majors, no Olympic gold medals, which I always thought was wrong. So now we're seeing here in 2024, seeing Nelly taking on the Olympic gold medalist who also won a major, who's won multiple events in a year. It kind of almost feels like a full circle moment from a few years ago. So I think this is a very interesting race, even though I do think there's a clear winner in Nelly Korda.
So I'll give some stats here. Nelly Korda has won 6 times this year.
Mm-hmm.
She has not won since May 19th, though.
Yeah.
Her last win, she won the Chevron. She shot 13 under to win that major. Obviously, she did not win the gold, as we mentioned.
Since then, she's won the Mizuho in New York. She won that. There was a week in between that and the Chevron, or a tournament in between that and the Chevron, I should say, and then she won the Mizuho.
Lydia Ko, on the other hand, she's won half the amount of tournaments that Nelly won. She won in January, and then she won. But let's say she's won 4 though. I think, because we're going to count this Olympic gold medal in our argument. So let's say she's won 4 times this year.
And I'll say she earned the second tournament of the year, which Nelly ended up winning. Nelly just played incredible on the last 2 holes. Lydia Ko had a 3-stroke lead when Nelly was standing on the 17th hole in Bradenton, and Nelly went eagle birdie to force a playoff. Lydia Ko did not lose that tournament. It's
Nelly
just
won.
Nelly played incredibly to come back on that. And so I do think we need to remember that Lydia Ko is very close to having 4 wins while Nelly has 5. It's just unbelievable play from Nelly took that away.
So here's my argument.
Mm-hmm.
I got 2 reasons why I think Lydia Ko should win and not Nelly.
Mm-hmm.
First off, and this is my strongest point, what have you done for me lately?
Yep.
The Olympic gold medal was in August. The AIG Women's Open was in August. The Kroger Queen City Championship win was just recently in September. She won that on September 22nd. So I think for me, it's a what have you done lately deal, not what you did early in the season. And then the play has kind of been okay since then, but not up to the level that it was, that dominance that we saw at the beginning of the year when it was like, just the golf was taking, everyone by storm, because it felt like you had on the men's side Scotty winning every week, and on the women's side you had Nelly winning every week, and it was like, who's going to beat these players? And now, that kind of faded because, it's just not been as consistent. I thought she was going to dominate the entire season. I think it's a what have you done for me lately? And then my second argument is that AIG Women's Open was super hard to win.
Yeah.
The weather was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that it was a little bit of a harder major to win this year than Nelly's win. So those were my 2 arguments, Max. Why am I wrong? Tell me why I'm an idiot here, but that's my opinion.
So I'm going to concede a couple points to you, because while I think Nelly's Chevron championship win is incredibly well earned and a great championship, and nothing should be taken away from it, Heyron Yu and Brooke Henderson both kind of blew it. They were playing really well through 3 rounds. They were in the final group with Nelly Korda, 2 of the best players in the world. And they just didn't play well. And Nelly played really, really well on Sunday, especially early, to kind of establish that big lead that then she kind of gave away a little bit, but still. I will say, that wasn't the most impressive major win this season. And I would almost say, honestly, it was maybe the least impressive major win this season from anyone. Because I do think that it was a lot of other players kind of falling around her, and she didn't fall until like the 15th hole. And by that point, it was kind of almost already over. So I'll give you all of that. Here's why I do think she should win, which is that, again, you said 6 wins, which is just an absurd number of wins in a season. She has that major. I don't think you can win Player of the Year without a major. I am just firm on that. I don't think you should be able to win. Majors are the most important tournaments in golf. How can you win Player of the Year without one of those?
I'm gonna jump in here real quick. If you win 10 tournaments or something, don't win a major, and then all the major winners, like, they've won 1 or 2 that year. I think that's the exception there.
I totally agree with that. But if it's close and there's a player with a major, that player should win Player of the Year.
Okay.
Again, we get back to the 2021 race where Nelly had 4 tournaments and 1 major. Jin Young Ko had 5 tournaments, 0 majors. Nelly deserved to win.
I agree.
We're getting back to that where she has that major, which is just kind of that qualifying thing to me. She won the Annika Major Award this year, which counts the best player throughout all of the majors. So Nelly won that. She had 2 top 2 finishes in majors. I mean, I think it's really easy to forget with how kind of a mess that final round of the AIG Women's Open was, that Nelly finished in a tie for second for that. I mean, with Lydia Vu, uh, it was kind of a weird, messy rain impacted final, but she still finished second in that major. She has 9 top 10 finishes in 14 starts, which is a crazy percentage, even though we all think of that this last, 3 months has been really, really bad for her. She still has a huge percentage of great finishes. And then we get into this. Let's just go through the stats. She's number one in scoring average at 69.92 strokes per round. She's number one in strokes gained per round. She's number one in birdie percentage. She's the top player in birdie or better per round. She's first in par four scoring. She's second in par five scoring. She's first in bogey to birdie percentage. Like, she dominates so many of the stats. And so I do agree that the what have you done for me lately? What is your consistency level? Because Lydia Ko, not traditionally known as the most consistent player on tour, has been very consistent this year and has put together a lot of really strong starts and has that Olympic medal. I mean, she's a Hall of Famer. You have to give her respect. But Nelly has just put together so many good tournaments, even though she's gone months without a win. And she has like 2 good finishes recently. It's just something that you look back on and you're like, okay, when you look at the season as a whole and don't take into account the timeline exactly that everything happened, you would say Nelly has the best season. But the timeline, unfortunately, doesn't really work in her favor because it was so front loaded. But I still think she has been the best player this season.
And I'm not trying to argue against myself, but Nelly has played in 3 less tournaments and has more wins.
She has, but I don't really think that's something that is super relevant in this discussion, because I do think that rest is a big factor. And early on in the season, when she won her first event, took a few weeks off, and then went on that run, I don't know if she would have went on that run without that rest.
Got it. And then cash. Nelly Korda has won over $3.7 million this year. Lydia Ko, a little bit over $2.5 million. So,
Yeah,
if you're going to go by money, I mean, Nelly Korda is blowing out Lydia Ko.
The cash argument is something very interesting because, like, halfway through the year, Nelly had already like put herself in like the top 3 all time of like single season earners. And so she put herself on such an insane scale because her season was so front loaded that she had some really insane stats right away that have kept through. I mean, she jumped out to a huge CME standings lead like 2 or 3 tournaments into the year for her. But she hasn't let that go because, I mean, that start of the season was so huge, so big, and so impactful for the LPGA Tour. I mean, we talk about Caitlin Clark a lot when it comes to the WNBA, and it's like those first 7 or 8 tournaments for Nelly Korda, it was kind of the same thing. I mean, the LPGA was gaining a lot of momentum, and Nelly Korda was at the forefront of that. And again, like, her stardom shouldn't be anything new because her 2021 was so strong, and I think people really forget that. But just in the time and place that there is, where every women's sports league is looking for their Caitlin Clark, Nelly just had that perfect timing also.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I've never forgotten how good Nelly Korda is, because Max reminds me every probably once a week at least, maybe, how good she is.
Yeah.
So that is something to say there. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see who ends up winning. It'll probably be Nelly, but I think I make a good
Yeah.
argument.
I mean,
I think I make a good argument.
Yeah, no, I think Lydia Ko has a good argument to still be in the conversation. The bigger, larger debate is, should this still be a conversation? Because if you look at the stats right now, it's almost impossible for Nelly Korda not to win Player of the Year. Even if Lydia Ko goes on a crazy run to end the season, which is very possible considering her recent play, it's almost definitely Nelly Korda no matter what, because she has those 6 wins, which Lydia can possibly reach. But the problem is Nelly has 2 top 2 finishes in majors, and majors are worth double points. And it's going to be really hard for Lydia to overcome that gap that those majors gave Nelly.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see. Um, Again, I don't think it's as much of a. I at least don't think it's as much of a blowout as I guess you're saying there. But anyway,
I think it should be closer than it is. I think Lydia Ko has put together an incredible season, maybe arguably the best of her Hall of Fame career. It's just she has put it up at the same time as this historic Nelly season.
yeah. Anyway, PNC Championship.
Yes.
Exciting news. Speaking of Nelly Korda,
Yep.
she and her dad will be playing in the tournament. And then Annika, hashtag the return, is also playing in that tournament as well. So pretty cool news.
Yeah, this was great news to see this morning. It just came out yesterday. Nelly and Annika have really been carrying the torch for women's professional golf in this event for the last few years. This is historically seen as a men's senior tour event that sometimes has been crashed by the women. And Nelly has really been the first active pro women's golfer to take part in this every year, which I think is really fun, and it takes place around Christmas. So in theory, you need people who live in Florida who don't mind taking a few days away from their holiday week to go play in a golf tournament. That fits Nelly. And so her and her dad have been playing in this for the last few years. They've played pretty well. They've had some really viral moments. I mean, you think about that moment of Nelly meeting Tiger for the first time a couple years ago that went huge. That was at this event. And I'm very excited. We can't forget they haven't officially signed on for this event, but Steve Stricker and his daughter Izzy played in this last year. So there's another women's golfer to look out for in this event. But yeah, and Annika and her son Will, they kind of went really viral last time because Will is such an enthusiastic player. So I think this is great news. You kind of have this men's dominated tournament where the current icon of women's golf and the kind of past icon of women's golf are also kind of mixed into this field. So I think it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to watch these two teams go after it again.
Shout out Steve Stricker. You've, I think, hit on a range next to him, correct?
Oh, I've done a ton of things next to Steve Stricker. I went to the same school as his daughter. Ton of things. Madison legend.
There you go. If you didn't know, Max Bechtoldt, huge Wisconsin guy.
Madison, Wisconsin. Let's go.
Hey, Max, have you ever milked a cow?
No, I have not milked a cow, but I appreciate the reference.
All right. What is up on the site right now? Again, Fore-All.com. That's FORE-ALL.com. What's up on the site? What do people need to be checking out?
Well, I can weave in a little bit of promotion for next week for the podcast, because next week we're going to be talking about the President's Cup. Everybody's talking about the President's Cup. How do we fix it? How do we get the women involved? I have an article up right now on the site about what the President's Cup might look like this year if it included women. We're going to be talking about that next week on the podcast, so stay tuned to that. Also, fashion blowing up. One of the biggest articles of the year. We're hitting the ground running with fashion. That's going to be up every single week. Vicky DeRazio absolutely killing it right now for us. And she's doing a lot of great promotion also. So shout out to Vicky. She's doing amazing work. And that's up on the site right now. You can go look at this article. She's talking about Malbon Golf, which is one of the most controversial brands in golf, most known for Jason Day's wild and crazy outfits. But they've also had a huge presence on the LPGA tour with Charlie Hull and Mina Harrigai rocking them. So she wrote about that and the Jimmy Choo shoes that they're providing right now. So go check that out. Every single week there'll be a new fashion article up. So that's what's up on the site right now.
Totally unneeded from me, but I like crazy golf outfits. Don't make it boring here. It's supposed to be fun. So yeah. Well, anyway, go check all that stuff out. And we will talk to you next week.